Hello, good evening. My name is Sinead O'Donoghue and I'm Head of Humanities and Business here at Windsor College. I'm going to give you a little insight into our department, and at the end, if you've got any questions, I'll hang around to answer those for you. You've probably been looking at lots of different subjects and a little unclear as to what humanities subjects are, so there's a little bit of information here. But basically, they're the subjects which draw your attention to and make you think about society and society's issues. So now that you know what it is, you may wonder why you should study it, apart from it being great. So here are some other tips on why you should study humanities, but it's about developing those critical thinking skills. It's about developing debate and discussion and realising that there's more than one way to answer a question. So we have a broad and diverse range of subjects, and I have a list of them here for you, and we will guide you through which subjects work well together and which subjects will get you onto the right career path. Our expectations are that our learners will act like young adults, as you can quite imagine. We've got a number of basic rules, and for example, we expect all learners in the humanities department to apply at least 5 hours per week per subject in addition to their classroom time. So in addition to your lessons, we also plan a number of guest speakers, trips, experiences. This is a list of where our students went this year, and we hope to go to a number of them again, but obviously we'll be respectful of what's happening with the pandemic at the moment. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope I've given you the information you need. I'm going to stay here in case you have any more questions, and otherwise I'd love to welcome you in September.
Thanks, Sinead. Is it possible to give some detail about the different subject areas?
Yeah, okay. I'm just going to go back to these slides. So I'll start off with our sort of business and economic focused subjects. So we either have a combination of doing BTEC with A level, or we've got pure BTEC and pure A level. So there are options to combine if you need them. BTECs tend to be more coursework focused, and some students prefer that way of delivery. And with our A level, so for example, we've got criminology, which is a new subject which started this year. That complements very well with, for example, law and psychology, depending on if someone wants to go into the criminal justice background. Most of these subjects are exam based, as I've said. So some of them will also have an element of coursework with them, but the majority of them are about having good exam technique. Does that help?
Thank you. Are humanities good for employment, or is it better for university?
Actually, there's a bit of both here, because the humanities subjects are about gaining people skills, I'd say. As I said, there's a lot of debate and discussion with humanities subjects. So that helps you in all sorts of areas in life. So it helps you with things like employment, human resources, journalism, media, those types of things. But also they're well respected by the universities. They're facilitating subjects.
Thank you. Is there more work in a BTEC than in an A level?
Actually, there shouldn't be. They should be the same. The split over the year might be slightly different, but the amount of hours and the amount of work that a student puts in and the number of hours in the lessons, etc., are actually the same.
And which is most suitable for people? A level, you know, why would somebody choose to do a BTEC, and why would somebody else choose to do an A level?
It really depends on the learner. So as I said, with BTEC, it's more weighted towards coursework and assignments. So it might be that someone gets nervous in exams and things like that, and so it might not be the best route for them. It also means that you do your units as you go through, rather than if you think about the other subjects where you've got an exam at the end of 2 years, you've got to remember all of that. So for some students, you know, they're fine with their exam skills and that's not an issue. But for some other students, that it's better for them to sort of chunk away at their studies with the BTEC.
What sort of trips and visits and things do you do?
So this year we went to Barcelona for a weekend, so we combined that trip. So that was history, Spanish and economics. So we had to look at trade, etc. We had to look at obviously history when we were out there. We've had a number of guest speakers come in. So this year we actually had someone who was a reformed prisoner. So he talked about his experience for going through the criminal justice system. It's quite interesting insight into sort of how he ended up in a gang and things like that. So it's nice to sort of have that kind of experience. Obviously, any guests are have to go through our DBS checks.
Thank you. And what about results and universities? Have you got a good track record there?
Yeah, so our trajectory is on the way up, which is good. So we've got 98% A star to C grades, and our university acceptances have gone up, but I'd have to double check what the exact rate on that is. But yes, we have got a good track record on that.
Somebody's just asking about the trips that we do. Are there any that are not related to the subject and are just for fun?
There are, and again, that will depend on what's kind of happening with the pandemic. But yeah, certainly we've had in the pipeline, we've had things like New York, and I've now gone blank, but I can't remember the other country that we visited. But that was not business, it was not subject related, it was enrichment.
Thanks. And what sort of universities have the students gone on to?
We tend to, humanities students tend to go to, for example, Royal Holloway, Reading University, Exeter. So we seem to have a high rate of our students going to those universities.
And how would you describe the department and the college itself?
Awesome, obviously, but I think we are very different from school. We do treat, as I said earlier, we do treat our learners as young adults. We are expecting them to be mature. So, for example, a student doesn't say Miss or Mrs. They call their teacher by their first name. So I think one of our strengths is that we have very good relationships with our students. I certainly think the feedback from the students is that they have a good time, but also they get what they want out of coming to college. So they walk away with good experiences all round, not just having a certificate.
Great, thank you. Does anybody else have any more questions that they'd like to ask Sinead? Just thinking about the other, how does the humanities team sort of interconnect with the other departments at Windsor?
We work collaboratively, so it is very common, for example, for a science student, perhaps biology, to also be studying psychology. So we wouldn't say that we're separate. We are always working collaboratively with each other.
Thank you. Someone's just said, obviously you've mentioned about treating the students as young adults, but what kind of support do they get as well?
So each student will get a personal tutor, so for pastoral support. We also will help them outside of the lessons. We'll help them with things like their study skills, revision skills, organising their time, etc. So there's opportunities for sort of setting up study buddy systems. So they do get quite a lot of support from our teachers.
Great, thank you. What about learner services? Are there support there for students?
Yeah, so student, but it's a separate department, so if there's some specific questions on that, they'll be able to help you with that. But learner support helps from anything really, so students that may have sort of maybe suffering from anxiety, or it may be that they are dyslexic and need extra time. So there's a whole range of things that the learner support team will assist the learners with.
I think you may have mentioned this earlier, but maybe worth repeating. What sort of careers do people go into from humanities?
It tends to be quite a lot of management style jobs, because the emphasis on the people skills. So it can be, so like I said, management skills, or it can be human resources, media, journalism. So those are probably the most common careers that you get from studying these subjects.
Just a question about the college day. How many days a week are they normally in college?
You should expect to be in 5 days a week. Those days may not always be completely full. So our typical day runs between 9 and 4:30. But for example, there may be some days where you don't start until 10:45, or you may finish slightly earlier. So it is a 5-day programme. But there will be, we call them independent study slots. So that's where you're not expected to be in the classroom. You're very welcome to be in the college and using, for example, our library or our free spaces to study, but your actual lesson time is not every single day 9 to 4:30.
Thank you. Any more questions? We'll just wait a moment to see if any more come through, Sinead.
No problem.
Okay, if that's no more questions. Another one's just come in, sorry.
No problem.
Just again on the 4 or 5 days a week, but you've just said it's generally a 5-day week, a 5-day programme, isn't it?
It is, yeah. You should expect to be here 5 days a week.
Okay, I think that seems to be it in terms of questions. I'll be here for another couple of minutes if you need to post any more. I've put on the chat the admissions email if you've got any questions around applying, and I'll just post up Sinead's email as well in case anybody wants to drop her a line after the session. Okay, thanks everybody. Oh, sorry, another question. Just this week. That's fine. In terms of COVID, somebody's asking, will that affect students coming in 5 days a week? And we know that we're making plans to bring check, amend the timetables where necessary. Do you have any information on that?
We haven't got a final answer on that at the moment, so we're really being government-led at the moment, but you're absolutely right. If it turns out that it's government decision changes on that, then the likelihood is that the timetable in the college could be reduced, and we rely more heavily on remote learning, which is what we've been currently doing. But it really does depend on what happens over the next few months. We're prepared either way, so we're prepared for remote learning or classroom learning.
Okay, thank you. And I think we're looking at doing some blended as well, aren't we, to be able to bring people in on different days so that there is a safe space for everybody to learn on campus.
Yeah, So we're looking at maybe, 2 days a week in the college and 3 days blended, as you've said, remote learning.
Okay, that's great. I think we will end the session there. I've put Sinead's email address on the chat, so please feel free to drop her a line if you need to, or if you've got questions about choosing the right course or how to apply, you can email our colleagues in the admissions team. Thanks very much, Sinead.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thanks.